Hello and welcome to another iteration of Not on the Radio. And I'm very happy to be here with Annie May Willis. Annie is a singer, songwriter, and guitarist, a poet. She's a deep meditator and meditation facilitator, as well as a lawyer and a community organizer.
That's right.
Yeah, thank you so much for making the time to do this, Annie.
Thank you, Jacob.
Yeah. And Annie has a new album.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, I should have brought one.
But it's out, yeah.
It's out. Yeah, it's called This Love. It came out at the end of March, and we're playing a show to celebrate it together on Thursday.
Thursday, yes.
Yeah.
Very soon at the Great Northern, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
119 Utah Street in San Francisco.
Right on.
Yeah.
So where's this music coming from, or this album coming from?
Yeah. Well, that's a good question. This album. This album comes from some amazing, painful experiences, as well as some really deep work, inner looking, as well as some just observation of our humanness and the way life flows, and comes from some beautiful collaborations with dear musical friends of mine, and also just from a deeper place to just let the muse flow and share whatever nuggets of wisdom I've learned along the way. Yeah.
This is number 2, right? Second album?
It is, yeah. Yeah, the first one is called Steady On, and that came out in 2015, at the end of 2015. And that album, just sort of, when I recorded that album, it was sort of like, whoa, music is flowing through, and I'm recording an album. It was all very magical and kind of felt miraculous at the time.
I remember when you first sort of started playing or performing, and I remember the first time I heard you sing, and my immediate thought was she sounds like a river. Like, she just sounds like good news.
I like that. Good news on the river.
It was very good news. Yeah.
That's great.
Would you be into talking about how you were initially practicing law and found yourself more in, down the road eventually in meditation communities and sort of serving a very different function from being a lawyer?
Sure, yeah. So I guess I could just say that in my 20s I had a real strong desire to be a part of the social justice movement, to put it very broadly, in the United States and abroad, and in the world. And I had a very long view of that, and desire to kind of be in other parts of the world and contribute in a really real way to human rights, and I can see now the healing of the planet. And I thought at the time when I was 25 that the best way to do that would be to get a law degree, and then really have that backbone, that platform, that standing as a woman and as someone who wanted to do that kind of work in the world, to really have that oomph. And so I went to law school, and pretty soon into it, I knew it was not my path, like the first semester of it, but by that
stuck
point,
it out.
Yeah, I stuck it out. By that point, I was quite a lot of money in debt after the first semester, and I was like, well, I better see this through. and so I did, and I gave it my all. I gave it my best, and graduated in 2008 in the middle of a very huge economic downturn in the United States. But I took my international human rights degree and law degree, and I went over to Tanzania for a time and worked at the Rwandan Tribunal, the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, and thought that would be my path, the international human rights path. And I learned there many things. I was humbled immensely at the age of 29 to learn what that system really looks like, and bless all of those who work in the United Nations and in international law and human rights. It just felt, I got a little disillusioned with the effectiveness of at least the particular area that I was working in. So,
is it all this, is it tangled in bureaucracy? I mean, is it?
Sure, and also, well, there's a lot I could say about it. I had a brief experience. I was only there for a few months and an internship, but from what I saw, it felt like lots and lots of money being spent on, prosecuting less than 50 people for just atrocious genocide. And of course, that particular genocide, there was other gacaca courts that were set up in Rwanda that might have been more effective in terms of, anyway, it's an international call to say that the world doesn't stand for that kind of brutality, and I agree with that. Of course, and it just came to me in that time that it wasn't probably my path to continue that. So I came back to the States, and I did some human rights work with women in prison here in California, documenting human rights abuses in the prison system, and went on to do a whole slew of interesting things, some related to human rights, some not, wills and trusts, and also community organizing for a few years. And during that time, my father passed, and he was a brilliant, beautiful man, and we were very close. And when he passed in 2010, my world really shifted quite a bit. He was sort of my rock person I would turn to the most. And so I went through a deep period of grief, but I was also working really hard as a community organizer, which was helpful for me at the time, to be putting my energy into something useful. And by that time, then I was doing local organizing, so I kind of gone from this international realm to bringing it home, and then I brought it even more home into my own inner work. After that, when I started sitting in all kinds of forms of meditation retreats, where I really started to look inward. And there is when I started to sort of leave the practice of law and more focus on my own inner practice, and then where I could be most effective in my community with these meditation practices and the music that started to flow through.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a profound thing to consider how one's your internal emotional and psychological makeup affects and echoes the broader scheme of things. And I think it's very fascinating how you came from a global perspective, and I feel like I know you still keep this global perspective, but it has been more and more refined into just like the workings of your heart, and just bringing it closer and closer, and that is.
And I can see myself again going back out
right on.
more and more.
Right on. Uh-huh.
Definitely impacted by all that's happening in the world right now. And as we all sort of wind our way and try to figure out what our best contribution is, you know, to ourselves and our immediate family and friends, but also to the world at large. It's, I think we all go through our ebbs and flows with knowing where to best put our energy.
Yeah, and that, just how to contribute in a meaningful way, and how to, just how to offer genuine help and just nourishment to your immediate community, because it's so daunting. There's so much trouble in the world.
There's a lot of trouble.
Yeah, there's a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And it can be almost paralyzing. Like,
sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But the music does good work. So I put a lot of faith in the music, because I feel like, I don't know, like I've never been called to a legal career, or even to direct action or things like this. Sometimes I put faith in creating music and art as sort of an implicitly, like an act of love and an act of affirming life and affirming community and dialogue, you know, just affirming communication with my fellow humanity. But I mean, it's... And
music is affirming it all. I mean, music is such a language of its own, you know, in its sound, in whatever lyrics you put to it, but in its sound and its transmission, you know, its vibration.
I love the vibrations.
I do. I know you do. Yeah, and it's just like the expression of joy, which we so need. We need more joy.
Absolutely.
In our daily happenings.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do. And like today I was on the way here, there was so much traffic, and I was so upset in the traffic. And trying to, I don't know, I would take a deep breath and say thank you, you know, and trying to just pacify the frustration. You know, I think we've all got, do we all have frustration? I mean, I would imagine, right? We have, I don't know, life is challenging. Life is so challenging, right?
Full of tiny and huge challenges.
Yeah, yes it is. Yes it is. You know, I feel like genuine spiritual work like makes one confront those challenges in like the most direct way. And I think in one way that's why my spiritual work might not be so appealing, you know, because it's like so to genuinely look at everything that might get in the way of peace or get in the way of
and within ourselves.
Yeah, within your own heart, you know.
I think that's what I've found to be like the work of, I don't know, spiritual work, as we might call it, is having to do the deep dive into oneself to see how one's contributing to that. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if you'd agree. But.
Well, you mean in what ways we're contributing to the angst or to the and indeed, exactly. Of course, and then to acknowledge that and be like, oh wow, you know, I'm failing in this way or coming up short in this way or not just not offering my best, I guess, in this way.
Yeah. You can catch yourself all the time.
Oh yeah, I mean on the daily.
Speaking of traffic, one time I was driving over the Bay Bridge, and I had these Heart sunglasses on. You know those? I used to love them, and I used to wear them all the time. And I was wearing my Heart sunglasses, feeling all great about whatever. And you know, someone cut me off in traffic, and I just like, I'm from New York, you know, I'm upstate, but still we have the same, you know. And I was like, you know, fuck you. And I like gave him the finger, you know,
In your hard glasses.
In my hard glasses. I'm like, and I just started cracking up at myself. I'm like, yeah. Good work, Willis. No, man. I mean, and that's the juxtaposition, I guess, or paradox in all of
It
us,
is,
right?
yeah.
So, bless that man, whoever took me off that one time. Sorry.
What is your daily spiritual practice like? Like what are you doing on the daily internally?
Yeah. Well, I have a gratitude practice that's pretty consistent. I notice when I don't do it. I notice the difference. And my gratitude practice simply means in the morning, if I do a silent meditation, I either start it or end it with just a sort of slew of what I'm grateful for that day. Grateful for my life. Thank you for my life.
Yeah.
Thank you for this day. Thank you for this breath. Thank you for whatever opportunities are in front of me today.
Yeah.
And I like to end the day with that as well. Grateful for whatever came through during the day. And I have a writing practice, the artist way. This is actually a newer practice
really?
for me.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the book, but I've never,
Yeah, I just started doing this a couple months ago. I had done it before and then I had stopped, but it's just a sort of free flow, 3 pages of writing in the morning. It's one of the practices that they suggest, and it just kind of is a mind dump. As soon as you get up in the morning, and some friends of mine were doing it, and they were like, "It's super helpful.
It's cool.
Helps with anxiety."
Right on. Yeah. I do a similar thing, and I'll call it a poem, but I'm just like.
Well, poem's good.
Yeah, poems are good.
Yeah.
It's funny though. When I do that, it doesn't necessarily make any sense, and sometimes I'm like, maybe I should try and make it make sense.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's just I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, that's the purpose, right? It's just to get the sort of riffraff out of the brain.
Clear out
in the morning. Yeah. And I have an altar that I sit at when I meditate, and when I just bring things to.
Right on.
Meaning, it's just a grounding cord for me. It's a place for me that gives me direction.
Yeah.
That is set in the directions. I know where the directions are. And has a candle in the center, and that I light. That just, it's just a grounding point.
Right on. Yeah.
And luckily, I've been taught by. I just have so many amazing teachers in my life, spiritual teachers, that I'm very grateful for, that have taught me things like how to build altars and how to pay attention to the directions and honor the directions and honor the beauty and the nature around us. And I grew up in a very rural town and on 150 acres of land in the middle of nowhere. I'm so grateful that was my upbringing, and spent a lot of time outside, but I didn't have a lot of, I wasn't raised with a lot of ritual, around.
And you were raised as a Quaker?
I was raised as a Quaker, and so beautiful, social justice based, sect of Christianity.
And am I correct that in Quakerism, like their services or whatever are just sitting in silence? Is that?
That's
true?
right. Yeah. An hour every Sunday. You sit. It's very meditative practice, actually. But it is, their book is the Bible. It's a Christian faith. And I went to Quaker boarding school my last 2 years of high school, and a Quaker college, Maryland College, and very grateful for that education, based on consensus and social justice, and everyone calls each other by their first name. There's no hierarchy whatsoever. There's no priest or preacher.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So I grew up with that practice. So I should say I grew up with that practice, which I'm grateful for. But I didn't grow up with a ritual in terms of honoring, and I think not a lot of people do.
Sure.
At least, you know.
I mean, I've always thought of it as we grew up with like a lot of unconscious rituals, or just
Right.
we don't even know we're enacting these rituals that
Right, and
shape our lives.
spewing, you know, spinning, you know, hexes with our words
Sure,
without knowing,
I know.
you know.
Yeah.
If we're not mindful of our language, yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So, without growing up with that, I'm just grateful in my later life, in my 30s, to now be learning some of that in a deep way.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wasn't, well, my mom, like, she tried to bring Judaism into our lives because it seems that my father's side were Hungarian Jews who renounced everything because of all the madness. And then my father's father pretty much renounced religion and was a very devout, sort of, I guess, an atheist, or, you know. And then my dad is also, considers himself an atheist. But my mom was very insistent on, you know, you should have a bar mitzvah and we should, you know, have some relation to the, you know, religious history of your family and, and, you know, have some sort of ceremony to usher you into being, you know, a young man, you know. And, and it's been very funny because, like, we don't even really know if my father's family, we don't know. Like, the history is, we don't know, you know, and it's lost as far as I can tell. But there has been this strain of Judaism that has just followed me. It's still, I think I'm still following it, and it's just been odd, very odd synchronicities of Judaism coming up in very unexpected ways, like in the musical dimension and with the musicians I'm making music with, and it's like, okay, well, I'll just keep my ears open to that and keep following that.
What a lineage.
Yeah. And I guess, I mean, spiritual practice, I used to be way more into silent meditation and much more diligent about it. And then I feel like I'm going to turn 30 this summer, and I feel like in my later 20s, I've just been way more active and sort of ambitious and like motivated, you know, and like it's been going from the early 20s of like inner silence and stillness contemplation to trying to facilitate that stillness in action and in doing. And certainly with studying music and creating music and creating art and trying to bring a stillness or just a peaceful witnessing to the act of creation. But at the same time, I miss being quiet, just sitting and being quiet. I feel like silence is my favorite thing. Contemplating silence feels like the most deep embrace of just
infinity.
Truth. Yeah, just the infinite, right? Of just like silence is everywhere, you know.
Right.
So it's like, let me just sit with that for a minute
and silence is music too.
Absolutely, yeah.
And getting absolute silence is very rare, so.
It sure is. And yeah, like how you mentioned that you've had many gifted spiritual teachers in your life. I feel like most of my gifted teachers have been musicians who, you know, it's like their access to what you could call a spiritual dimension is through music.
Right.
But I wouldn't necessarily call them spiritual masters or in any way. I mean, their neuroses are very obvious, and they're sort of, you know, like they're dealing with their eccentricities in a way that.
I think those are the best spiritual teachers,
I
actually,
enjoy,
that are just human and doing it
fallible.
and teaching as they go. You know.
And one of my teachers, Roscoe Mitchell, he would say, "Silence is perfect." So if you're going to make any music, like, be aware of that. You know, that silence is just pristine and to come.
And you're good at that too. I love that in your music, just how you interplay when to take a breath and have space before you do another. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I've always liked how you've done that.
Well, thank you.
But you're also, like, I think music is a spiritual practice in and of itself too, because it is that other language. It's like a language that, just goes beyond our verbal.
Absolutely. And it's very, like, shrouded in mystery, or it seems to be, like,
totally.
Like when I'm teaching, like, some students that they just see it as like this, like, like this veiled, mysterious thing,
Yeah.
you know. But we can all learn it to speak this.
We can all learn it, and it's also still totally a mystery.
Yeah,
Like,
it's even more mysterious.
Yeah. And so just even me being a musician feels like a mystery. I mean, I grew up playing the violin, so I had that, you know, actually pretty deep training, Suzuki method training. But, you know, almost 15 years later or something, or 16 years later, when I actually picked up a guitar and stuff like that, just seemed so mysterious how that was coming through. And so many songs like will come through in like 20 minutes, and you're like, where did that come
That's
from?
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, the portal. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, you're just a plain old channel.
I mean, so I do like to think of it as like I'm not the author. I like to think
That's
of it
right.
like that, you know, and
Absolutely.
and then even if it sucks, well, I didn't write it, you know, and if it's brilliant,
It's a good way to
right?
pass off responsibility.
I know. See, I had a teacher be like, no, you should own what you make, or you know, you should. But I do think there's like a power in sort of like it's like turning on a faucet or something, and something's going to come out, and if it's not good, clean water, I mean, you know, you're sort of clearing it out and going for that good water. So yeah, I think like a creative act is inherently valuable, even if the painting or the music or whatever isn't like wonderful, even if it's a failure or whatever.
Right.
It's just the act of doing that is good, is healthy, and
It's life-giving.
yeah, it's life-giving and life supportive, and
Yeah.
So what else on your mind?
Maybe we should play a tune.
I think so. Yeah.
Shall we?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right.
Yeah, what are we gonna play?
Yeah, well, let's see. I feel like maybe playing I'm Onto You.
Cool.
Just because we were just speaking to it, like these songs that come through kind of seemingly out of nowhere. And this is one of them for me. And it was a few years ago now, but it's on this new album. It's called I'm Onto You, and it just seems to be kind of like, it kind of sums up a lot of things for me, but certainly my most recent journeys of the heart and journeys of this spirit realm.
It's about truth, yeah.
It's about truth.
Yeah.
Just
Truth's
getting
heavy.
to the brass tacks of it all. Yeah, it's
Truth
heavy.
is heavy, yeah.
It's heavy, but it's also joyous,
Yes,
right?
it is.
When we get to it. So.
Right on.
Make a prayer for your life. Speak it out loud. Don't be shy. Take a stand unto you for what you hold true. I'm on to you. I'm talking about truth, capital T, not your story. Set yourself free. I'm saying you can stand tall on the platform of your soul. Yeah, truth. On to you. I see your pain, I see your joy, I see your power to make a choice to allow yourself to flow with divine source. Yeah, truth. On to you. Every time you close box seats, yeah, true. On to you. So let it go, let love in, tear the wall down, begin again. Be kind to this world, the ocean in one pearl, yeah, true. On to you. Every time you close your eyes, slow down. You just might find the answers to your questions. Every time you close your eyes, slow down. You just might find the key to your freedom. So pack it in, pack it out, so leave no trace of it, no doubt. Oh, fill your cup, take an honest look at your stuff, yeah, true. On to you. And feed your spirit, feed your soul with the things that give you more love and light. It's time to give up the fight, yeah, true. I'm on to you. And thank your family, thank your friends. Without them, you'd be dead. 1,000 reasons for each and every breath, yeah, true. On to you. Every time you close your eyes, slow down. You just might find the answers to your questions. Every time you close your eyes, slow down. You just might find the key to your freedom. So make a prayer for your life, speak it out loud, don't be shy. Take a stand up to you for what you hold true, oh true. I'm on to you.
Nice. Wonderful.
And we get to practice for the show. This is
Yes.
perfect.
Yes. Fast approaching.
Thank you. I love playing with you.
Ditto. Ditto.
Mm.
So, what about truth? How do you, what is true to you, Annie May?
Mm. Well, I'm going to quote it my dear friend Tara, who said once that you'll know truth because it's neutral. And I've explored this a bunch because it really resonated to me a few years ago when she said that, you know, if it's not true, it's going to incite some sort of reaction, you know, or there's something about truth that's just like a deep knowing, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you know, oh yeah, and it's just neutral. There's a neutrality to truth, I feel. That doesn't mean that you don't get excited by your truth or even sad by it, you know, because it's just what's real, you know. Like, oh, I really shouldn't be with that person, you know, in a relationship. That's sad, but it's true, you know. Or, you know, I don't know, getting excited about eating some food. I don't know.
That can be a very true experience.
Yeah, that can be a really true experience. What's true to me? I mean, I guess like the song says, you know, like forgiveness is truth. Like we got to do that in this life. Whether it's our mother or our brother or sister or friend or someone that's really wronged us, there's a lot of reasons to forgive.
Yeah.
Mostly it's for you.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean,
know?
I feel like the act of forgiveness doesn't necessarily liberate whoever or whatever caused harm, but it's more of a liberation for oneself. Like if you're able to forgive, you are free, or you will experience just release from whatever the begrudging reality of whatever it is. If you can forgive, it's like immediately you can breathe again.
Right.
I guess, but sometimes it feels like I don't know, like it might be impossible to choose to forgive in certain moments, or it just seems inconceivable in certain instances.
Right.
Like something has to come before forgiveness, like acknowledging maybe the wrong has been done.
Right, some sort of ownership or like acknowledgement or recognition. And maybe that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Maybe.
Yeah. I don't know the last line of that song, just thank your family, thank your friends,
Right.
without them you'd be dead.
Absolutely.
1,000 reasons for each and every breath. That to me is true.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just kind of get bowled over sometimes. I remember one time, actually right around the time I wrote this song, I was in my apartment in Richmond, California, and I was just overwhelmingly brought. I wasn't like high or drunk or anything. I was just having a moment in my apartment, writing with my guitar, and just brought to my knees with gratitude for everything that's ever come before me. I mean, if we're not in gratitude for this life, that's okay. There's a lot in the air right now with folks taking their lives seemingly left and right, and I honor that choice, actually. I honor the sovereignty of each individual and how they choose to live or leave this life. And what I've noticed for myself is if I'm not in gratitude for me, of like what's come before me and what's given me life and what keeps me alive and supports me and lifts me up and all my friendships and family, then I'm not in truth. Yeah. So I just say that it's with full respect for everyone's sovereign choice.
In the community I'm a part of, in the past maybe 5 years, there have been 2 people have taken their own lives. And it's like being is a blessing, but it's also tremendously burdensome.
That's right.
It's just like.
And I've certainly felt that myself.
As we all will, or I would imagine we all do. It's like if you're going to be awake to being alive.
Yeah. It's
like the sweets and the love is so much more beautiful, but the tough stuff is even worse. Sometimes I think like the deeper, the more you're sort of nourished this an inner state of lovingness and forgiveness to yourself and your fellow people, sort of the harder the challenges get, or the more it seems like there's always something more, something even larger to forgive, or something larger to
come to terms
with, and that can be like, whew.
Yeah. And people who really live fully, and I don't know. It's that analogy of the onion, that we hear all the time. You peel another layer back, there's another one, there's another one. It's kind of like an infinite onion of layers of stuff to look at, both within and without.
I like onions. I'll eat onions raw. I'll eat them raw.
Oh, I can't go there. But yeah, exactly. That's good. You liking the process, right?
It's funny because sometimes there was in my early 20s when I was really actively meditating consistently, and it would be sort of interesting to see just sort of the fabric of my own mind just go away, and like it was, in a way, it was a little unnerving. It was sort of scary to see, like to go as, like getting too deep into the emptiness that there's, into the silence that there's not much of a me left, and that
seems true.
Yeah, it does seem true, and it scared me. Like
Yeah.
like there was these points of like, oh wow, I would have to like give up certain things I would have to give up to get that close to truth, and then I backed off. I was like, maybe I'm not ready for that, or like I wasn't ready for that. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, and for good reason. I mean, I don't know, that's another whole topic, but it was just about readiness, and like just trusting that we're all getting what we need and shown what we need at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, whether we're actively engaged in some sort of practice to peel back the layers or not, just trusting life in and of itself and its wisdom and its unfurling for us individually and collectively too, even with all the trouble in the world, I guess it's not so, I just trusting life.
Yeah.
And how it's unfolding.
Let it take its own time. I'll get caught up in trying to rush the river, so to speak, or rush life.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
A and I were talking about that yesterday.
Right, but it's like I don't know.
You can't rush the river.
You sure can't.
That's right.
What a pointless task.
Yeah.
And then trying to be happy with where one is, and I don't know, even like acknowledging if one isn't happy with where one is, it's just impetus to maybe not rush the river, but row the boat, I guess.
Yes, one of my great teachers, that's one of his favorite spiritual songs is Row, Row, Row the Boat.
Yeah.
Simple lullaby, but it's a good one.
And it is a dream.
It is a dream. Keep rowing. Yeah. We could sing Grandfather on that note.
Shall we? Yeah. Right on.
What do you think? I've been digging my new strap.
All right.
I haven't had a guitar strap before now.
That's nice. I like the
Liking
feather.
it.
Yeah. So where does this song come from, Grandfather?
So this song actually was born out of losing my grandfather. He was actually my step-grandfather, but he's really the only grandfather I ever knew, because my two blood grandfathers on both sides died. One died well before I was born, and the other when I was 4. And so my grandpa Angie passed, I guess it was a little over 2 years now. And when he passed, this song came through. And it's for him, but it's a song about the cycle of life and honoring all of the generations, and the grandmother, the grandfather, the children, and everything in between, and how we're all teaching each other round and round.
Right on.
Yeah.
Into the infinite.
Yeah. show me the way. Teach me your patience, your kind ways. You are old, you are wise. I am young, with stars in my eyes. Grandmother, show me the way. Teach me your courage, your strength today. You are old, you are wise. I am young, with stars in my eyes. Dear children, show us the way. Teach us adventure, teach us to play. We are old, we are wise, but you are young, with stars in your eyes.
Lovely.
High five. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Did you hear the bird join us at the very end?
I did. I heard that little bird squawk. Yeah.
Oh, so we're playing that on Thursday, yeah. Or are we?
We are playing that
Yeah,
on Thursday.
right on, yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. That seems to be a must. Yeah.
Well, how you feeling? I mean,
I'm feeling great.
yeah,
This is fun.
that was beautiful.
I was worried. I was worried.
I was a little nervous too. It's a new endeavor.
Yeah, I so honor you that you're trying this out,
Thank you.
and that you asked me to be
I'm so happy you're here.
one of your firsts.
Right on.
Yeah.
Learning as we go.
Yeah. Honing.
Yeah, for
Getting
real.
better.
Yeah. Well, any, I don't know, final thoughts? Or, I mean, definitely come to the show.
Oh yeah.
Come to the
Yeah.
show on Thursday.
Plug for the
plug the
show. Thursday, June 14th,
At
7 p.m.
7.
at the Great Northern, 119 Utah Street,
Awesome.
San Francisco.
Yeah, it will be amazing.
We'll both be there.
Yes, we will. And many other
And
wonderful
many
artists.
other totally incredible artists, both instrumentalists, vocalists, poets.
And a painter too, right?
It's just collage work.
wonderful.
Yeah, amazing artist, Chelsea, and gonna have my friend Rose there vending her incredible clothing.
Very cool.
Another friend selling some of her incredible CBD plant medicines,
Right
and we'll be raffling off some artwork, and there'll be DJs,
It's gonna
amazing
be a
DJs
happening
afterwards.
time.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a happening
yeah.
time.
So join us. It's gonna be a smorgasbord of
Yes, it
awesome.
will. Well, it's been very lovely to spend this hour with you.
Likewise, Jacob.
Yeah, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening and tuning in.
Thank you, folks.
Yeah. Bye-bye.